Singapore was a just reminder that we have a long way to go before we're at a championship level. Often what we're talking about is performance solely, but underneath all of that is still the structures you need, the processes, the systems that build you into a robust, reliable car that is also ensuring that we're compliant with all the regulations at all times. In many ways, Singapore and Baku really, for me, represent motorsport. You have some of the highest highs with a podium in Baku, and you go into Singapore and have one of the lowest lows on Saturday evening when both of your cars are removed from the grid. In terms of what happened, we were legal across pretty much most of the span of the wing. What we do is turn on the car engine, open up the DRS, and use a tool that we have and the FI have as well in order to test along the length of that. And it passed pretty much in most locations, apart from at the very edge of the wing. But irrespective, that's still illegal to the regulations. And when we actually dig down underneath all of that, we can actually track it down to a number of systems and processes that simply weren't in place, weren't up to date, and even the tool that we had didn't properly mirror the tool that the FIA had as well, which could have allowed for a discrepancy. Now, this is just one of 1,000 tests that can be carried out by the FIA, but irrespective, all of them are as important as each other, and it's our duty and responsibility to make sure we're legal to it. As painful as was, I'm really proud of how the team reset overnight. We knew we had a very quick car. The strategy team did a very good job of bringing us through on a journey of what we can do to achieve that result, what start time we needed. We're hoping for a little bit more rain or perhaps even another safety car opportunity, which will provide again another chance for us to move forward. But without those, to still have a point to our name is a fantastic achievement. It is, though, for me, a story of what could have been. The car was very quick with both Alex and Carlos, and I'm confident both, even from when we qualified on the grid, would have ended up in the points on Sunday. So a painful reminder that we have to get absolutely everything right every weekend in order to have success. Welcome to the Vowles Verdict, presented by Kraken. A question from Paul, which is, how hard is it to bring the whole team together when both cars have been disqualified? And it was great to see them come back with Carlos to be 10th in the following day. The answer to it is, in a strange way, I relish these opportunities because I suspect that this could stand out into our mind as a line in our sand that we never want to move beyond again in terms of having the car illegal to this. And so if you use it the right way, you can build a strength that didn't exist previously in the team. If you use it the wrong way, which is to take your frustration out on individuals, you actually don't even get to the bottom of what happened and how to rectify it. In this particular circumstance, what was interesting is you have to dig several layers below what happened to actually understand truly how we could put ourselves in that circumstance and what we're going to do with immediate effect to correct it, not just for wing legality, but across all areas of the car, build, operations, factory. And that's the real juice that comes out of it if you treat it the right way. So how hard was it? By the next morning, everyone was raring to go and ready to fight for points. Questions from Jason, which was, how important was it to you for you to know that the team could score points on the following day, given what happened? I treat it as bittersweet. I'm frustrated because I knew the car was quick in a race trim. I don't think we got everything out of qualifying. I think we're in a much better state on the tyres, but I think there was more to give. But even with our starting position, I was confident a good points haul was possible with how quick we were in Singapore. And so actually I took frustration from the fact that we didn't deliver everything from that weekend that we could. Very proud of how we came back and scored a single point. Very happy with how Alex and Carlos were working together and the strategy teams, because there was a real work as a team in order to achieve that singular point. But irrespective, I think the overriding element for me is we need to make sure that we are delivering every single point this car is capable from every weekend, and we didn't in Singapore. The next question is from Noah, which was, you were one of the last cars to stop. Was that always a part of the plan, and could we have done something similar with Alex? So in the morning, what we'd highlighted is actually there was an intention of starting Alex on the hard compound and Carlos on the medium compound. But just before the race started, I don't know if you caught on TV, there was fairly heavy downpours to the extent where we were doing laps to grid on the intermediate tyre. And in that circumstance, when you start on a hard and a slightly damp track, it can be disastrous. So we opted to put both cars on the medium. However, exactly to this point, the intention was to run long, let other people effectively, there was a number of runners, especially on that soft tyre, they're going to have to stop shorter than us. and it provides an opportunity to go long and use the car pace right at the end. Now, you're not going to be able to necessarily overcut cars, but what you will be able to do in Singapore is degradation is real and significant, and you can offset yourself by effectively going to the softest compound right at the end and present an overtaking opportunity. So that was discussed in the morning. There was a discussion over, do we avoid the hard whatsoever at all? What's the benefit of an undercut? How do we use this? How do we maximize safety car opportunity? And that's what really pushed us to that long stint length. Because the second benefit, although it didn't transpire, is should a safety car come out, it gives you that opportunity to really reset, fit fresher tires than others, the whole pack is compressed together again, and you can race to the end. In the case of Alex, it was the attempt to do it with both cars. However, with Alex, as you saw, he was caught further back than Carlos. He was caught behind another car, and it just meant that he wasn't able to get into the same window behind, and that compromised his race a little bit. But further to that, what we were able to do with Alex is very much play the team game. Once he had stopped and we had Lawson behind, you would have seen Alex just driving a little bit off the pace to create a gap for Carlos just to sneak into it, allow Carlos to extend his stint out. And what it meant as a result of it, and as a result of a number of cars being blocked in traffic, was when Carlos came out, he had a clear line of sight to P10 in front of him. He had to overtake a number of cars to get there, but it was there to take. My hope was with Alex, we could also be in that situation of just fighting at the back end, but ultimately, as you saw, Carlos picked up the only real point that was available. Beerman was too far in front, we lost too much time behind competitors, and so there wasn't really a point for both cars available. So maximising the opportunity for the team is what we did. Desmond asked, the brake fire that we had with Alex in the FP1, was that a result of humidity? Was that a disc problem? What was going on? So first thing to point out is Singapore, but also coming up Mexico, are very, very high in terms of brake duty. It's very hard to get the cooling through the brakes required. And you saw that in the race. There was certainly Lewis that was in trouble with the brakes as a result of it, but I think most teams were really trying to manage it all the way throughout. That wasn't the circumstance in FP1, however. All Alex had done was an outlap. He'd done the time lap, and it was during that time lap that we aborted it, so much earlier on than that. In this particular circumstance, it's been traced to, we have a BBW brake-by-wire system, it's been traced to a hardware fault within that. The issue actually started around turn 10 of that lap, and we got Alex to back off just a few corners later, but even by that point, the brake discs had so much energy in them and so much temperature, we couldn't cool them down. And even when he came in for the pit lane, as you saw, we were using fire extinguishers to remove the energy, but not sufficiently to stop the damage being done. But that isn't related to humidity, it's not even related to brake duty. It could have happened at another track. It is really about another hardware fault that we have to make sure we understand and fix by Austin. Final question from Tino is, how do you think this race would have panned out if you weren't disqualified? It's a good question. The car pace was very strong, and we would still have gone the long side in our starting position. Probably, again, both cars are medium, just because that rain is what impacted on that. Our car pace in the end was very similar to Aston. I think Alonso would have been just a little bit quicker than us, but you saw where he finished, you saw where Beerman finished, you saw where others finished. So I think more opportunity, definitely two cars in the points. Hard to know exactly where we would have shuffled Albo.